Well, hey guys, welcome to the channel. Welcome to my stream and chapter 2 of working on that guy there. That's our 1969 Corvette 427 coupe. Not 429 like the picture shows, it's a 427. My box says 427, it's a 427. Anyway, we're in the intro. We'll get going. Okay, so we're back and we're going to continue the build. I've gone ahead and I painted everything all black. All my parts are black now. Okay, so we got a whole bunch of black parts everywhere. Yeah, it's all black. It's just black primer. That's all it is. It's not painted black. It's although some of the parts, like say the interior bucket, which is back here, the interior bucket, we're going to leave that just the way it is because, well, black interior, black carpet, primered black. It's black. It's good enough, right? Yeah. So what are we going to do today then, now that everything's black? Well, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to determine which parts I'm going to keep chrome and which ones I'm going to strip the chrome. Let's change the camera here and we'll have a look. So, in order to look, I need to change glasses. Okay. There are a few things I actually want to keep with this kit chrome, and a few things I want to strip the chrome from. So I'm going to take everything off that I want to keep with the kit chrome. I think the air cleaner chrome is going to be better having this nice bright kit chrome. I like that one. I think the bumper should be stripped. Our little buckets for my tail lights, I think I'm going to keep those chrome like this. I think that's going to be better. The chrominess is just a lot better than the paint. And the chrome paint that they, well, I'd say paint, they actually use, I believe it is powdered aluminum that they use on the kits. I believe so. It's either aluminum or it's or silver. I can't remember now. Anyway, it's a powdered thing. But it's just a lot more durable and it holds up to glue a lot better than paint. So let's see, what else? This little canister, I think we're going to strip that. Our coil springs, which it's really weird, they've done them in halves. But we're going to strip those. Alternator, yep, we're going to strip that. The alternator should be, I think our valve covers, those should stay kit chrome, in my opinion. That'll keep them nice and bright and shiny. Now, like I said before, I'm building this to replicate my dad's old 69 Corvette, and he told me this thing had, his car had like chrome everywhere, so I'm going to assume that he had the chrome options for the under the hood, and yeah, I don't know what this piece is. I have no idea what that is. I'm going to guess that it should have chrome stripped. I'm just going to get rid of that little thing in between our rear bumpers. And then of course we have our rear view mirror, which would be nice if that stayed mirror chrome like it is. So we're going to take that off. We're going to strip the wheels, we're going to strip these, and whatever the heck these things are and whatever the heck these things are. These are probably the tailpipes. I think I'll keep the tailpipes nice and shiny chrome. We're going to make them a little dirty anyway, so if he had chrome everywhere, it's possible he had the chrome tips on his tailpipes. I think that's good. So we're going to strip this stuff. We're going to put these all aside. Let's just slide these guys all over here. Okay, including my carburetor. Now I should note, let me grab my engine. In my last chapter, you guys saw me put on the intake manifold with for the 3 2-barrel carburetors for the triple deuce, but my dad's car didn't have 3 2-barrels on it. He just had a single 4-barrel, and so I ripped that intake off, and in the kit, of course, was a very nicely chromed 4-barrel carburetor intake, and so I put that on there. So we now have a single 4-barrel carb intake on this engine. And of course, this is our little carburetor that I've got primered black, which you can't see any detail. It's just like a little black rectangle, right? Yeah, so that is that. That's going to go on here like this at some point. Okay. Anyway, so that's that. Might as well just leave the engine there. So how are we stripping the chrome? Well, we're going to start with a bucket. Nice piece of Tupperware here. And we're going to use some Easy Off oven cleaner. This stuff here. This is this heavy duty oven cleaner, lemon scent, so it smells nice. This is kind of thick. It's a thick gel kind of stuff. So we're going to take this and we're going to put it in here, and unfortunately it doesn't quite fit. So we're going to solve that problem. We're going to solve the problem by trimming this down. Turn our chrome part into 2 pieces. You're not supposed to go flying anywhere. I stabbed myself with a toothpick. Just kidding. So I'm just going to trim this off and trim this down. This, and sure, why not just do this. Okay, so now they'll fit, sort of. They'll fit on top of each other. It's not really going to make a difference. Okay, so we'll open this up. And we'll just pour in enough that it covers it all. There we go. And that might be the whole bottle, but whatever. Got enough. And we're going to leave this for a little while. And just let it do its thing. Put the lid on. We don't want to accidentally spill it anywhere. Okay. Just like that. And we're just going to leave that. Put that off to the side, and we're going to forget about it for a little while. So, with the chrome parts being de-chromed, let's have a look at our instructions. One thing I have not painted yet is the body. I haven't done that yet. I was thinking about painting it, but I think I need to do some work on our inner fenders and get that thickness taken away. I'll show you guys how to do that. We're going to do that now, actually. Let me grab my Dremel. Dremel. Let's take that bit out. I don't need that one. The bit I do need is one of these little bits. Okay, let me change the camera so you can see. Okay, so you're going to want a bit like this, one of those guys. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to go on the inner fenders and we're going to grind this edge down so that this kind of comes to a point. You see how it's really thick? We want to eliminate that thickness, and we're going to just go on an angle like this so we can make this thinner at least to the visual eye. You're basically going to look at it and say, oh, look at that, that's a piece of sheet metal instead of a thick little piece of plastic, okay? So when you're looking at the car from, say, this angle, okay, you're not going to see a very thick fender. You're going to see a nice thin piece of sheet metal like you would on the real car. But it's only for just the edge. I'm not trying to widen the wheel well or anything crazy like that. I'm just trying to eliminate that edge. So fire up my Dremel here and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, now this is just to show you what I'm doing here. So you look at that edge right there, that's now very thin compared to this thick edge. At least it looks thin. I've just done it on an angle so that it's, you know, it's kind of a chamfered edge now. But I'm preserving the actual radius of our wheel well. I'm just doing the inside edge. And that's what I'm doing. So I'm going to continue doing that. And yeah. Okay, so our fenders are done. We've got nice chamfered edges now, so they look a lot more like, you know, just thinner sheets of sheet metal instead of that nastiness. Now I want to get in there and get rid of a little bit of the roughness. Smooth that out a little bit, because that bit is pretty aggressive on this. It's basically like 40 grit sandpaper put on a rotary tool. And yeah, it's rough. So I'll just take some 180 grit here and just kind of soften this edge up a little bit. And of course I did go through a little too close on this edge here, so I've got a little bit of a little doink in my fender, but you know what, it's such a minor little thing, it's not really going to bother me. It bothers me, but it doesn't, you know what I mean? Now I've got all this orange bits everywhere. Orange bits all over my everything, including myself. Alright, so let's put that there and that there. Put this back on here and put that back over here. Alright, so with that part done, I want to spray some primer onto my body so I can see if there's any mold lines or anything that I need to get rid of. I feel like there's, yeah, right across the fenders here, across the top, it feels like I've got a mold line. So I want to sand that down a little bit. It shouldn't be sticking up like crazy like that. It should be a relatively smooth transition, especially back here. So let's just take that it's basically like a little lip. You know what I mean? You see them a lot in like areas like here and stuff like that on model kits. A little mold line where the two parts of the mold came together, and unfortunately it creates a little bit of a lip, so we need to take care of that. Soften that point down a little bit. Okay, do the same on this side. I don't know if your camera really picks it up. Hey! Step one looks very complicated. Yeah, kinda. Okay, so you see that little lip? If I get it in the light, you can see that extremely sharp edge going across there. That shouldn't really be there. Yeah, these cars have that kind of a point there, but it shouldn't be like, it shouldn't look like the two edges are coming like this and then going up like this to each other, or let's put it this way, like this. They should just be at a point and not go like this. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? So we need to sand this and get rid of that edge, that little tiny bit of a lip. That's right there. You can see it a little bit better now that I've sanded it. Got that little bit of a lip right there. So we need to get rid of that. Just kind of blend that in a little bit. And then I'll spray this. I'll just use the rattle can and spray it with some primer, because it'll spray a nice thick coat on there. And yeah. I don't want to go too heavy-handed on it. I don't want to create deep scratches. You know, these things are all, these bodies are all fiberglass on these cars. I don't know, are new Corvettes still, do they still hold to that tradition where the bodies are all fiberglass? I don't know if they do still or not. I haven't really kept up with my Chevrolet stuff. But I'm pretty sure this part back here should look like one piece and not have any kind of a mold line in it at all. So I want to get rid of that line completely here. There we go, she's gone. Now let's just continue this here all the way to the front. Okay, so I got it disappeared almost completely here on this edge. Now that I can almost visually not see it, I want to just go that extra step and really make that gone. And I'm going to do the same on this side here. This side wasn't quite as bad, wasn't as noticeable, but it was still there. There we go. Okay, how's the back feel? We kind of got the same thing going on back here. It's not as pronounced, or at least not on the driver's side. So I'll just kind of soften that a little bit here. Just a little bit. There we go. Okay. Do that here. It's all about the details, you know? I mean, probably anybody coming to my house and looking at my shelf, they're not going to say, hey, you didn't sand those lines down. But you know what? I know they're there. I know they're there, and I know I didn't do it right. And so it would bug me. So I want to make sure I do it right. Okay. Still no. It's feeling with my fingernail. Do you guys even can buy city cars in Canada? What do you mean city cars? Like Toyota Yaris, Fiat Fiestas, or Volkswagen? Okay, so the Toyota Yaris, we do have the Toyota Yaris that you can buy. here in Canada. I've never heard of a Fiat Fiesta. We do have Fiats. We do have a Fiat, but I don't know what the model is of the Fiat that we have here. And then the Volkswagen Polo, I have not heard of that one. It's the Golf is the most prevalent Volkswagen here. Oh, Ford Fiesta, yes, I know the Ford Fiesta. We have that. We haven't actually, the Fiesta, that car, we haven't had the Fiesta here for a little while. Basically, I guess there wasn't enough sales and Ford discontinued it here. Because they already had the Escort, the Ford Escort, and so it was kind of in competition with itself for small cars. Okay, so I want to step up my sandpaper now to like more of a 320 grit to smoothen out my scratches here, because that's going to look crappy even through a thick coat of primer. So I want to just smooth out those deep scratches I put in here, and it actually kind of polishes it a little bit too. Okay, that looks good. And I'm just going to go over the whole kind of thing like this with my sandpaper. Even though this stuff is really fine, it can still leave scratches. But fortunately, that's what the primer fixes. The primer fixes that. That's why even wet sanding this stuff can be aggressive. I mean, we are sanding plastic after all, we're not sanding steel. Okay, that's good enough, I think. So let's grab the hood, because I like to paint the hood on the car so I get a nice even coverage everywhere on all those pieces. So let's find the hood here. I already did do the underside of the hood, so that's not going to be an issue. Let's just do this. Doink. But we need to clean up this great big ugly nub on there and get our contour correct here. File that down a little bit. Get that curve right. That looks pretty flat. Let's see here. It's kind of interesting, like almost like the hood has to go like this because it's got these hinges. That's, what the heck, man? How does this go in here without... What have they done here? So I can't get that in all the way. This has to go like that, and then it doesn't really fit. Wow. Okay, Ravel, what were you thinking? Let's look at the instructions before I go and break this thing. Let's find the point where we're putting the hood in. In this picture, the hood's already on. Here we go. So, yeah, they're not really just doot 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 doot. Yeah, that's great. And to apply tape to hold the hood. So Yeah, that doesn't quite work, does it? There we go. It's just a really tight fit. And although it lines up, it is really tight. It lines up, and at least it sits, it kind of wants to sit ajar. I want to say ajar, yeah. Anyway, the hood's on there. So what I'm going to do first, we're going to spray some black on the inside here and get that done. And like I said, I'm just going to do, picture looks very helpful. Yeah, it is and it isn't, right? We're going to use this stuff here, Mr. Surfacer 1500 black, just the rattle can stuff. I have it in the spray too, for airbrush, and that's what I did all the parts with, was the airbrush. But just for simplicity's sake, we're going to do this real quick. I am going to be holding the body, so I want to put a glove on so that I don't spray paint my hand black. My wife just would think I'm a little crazy. So I'm just going to quickly do the inside here. Okay, so the inside's black, just like that. Okay, so what's so special about this car? I don't know it at all. Okay, well, there's two things that are special. The 1969 Corvette was basically before the emissions crisis of the 70s. So kind of, you could say it's the last of the real high performance cars was 1969. Maybe 1970, but in 1970 they started really worrying about emissions and stuff. Not to mention fuel efficiency. These cars came with big block 427 engines with lots of horsepower in such a small car that was only a two-seater car. So basically these were the fastest American cars on the roads. But you could get this thing. There was one particular version of it called the ZL1 or ZL1 if you're in the British colonies like we are. That car, they only made two of them, just a total of two. One actually sold in 2023 for over $4 million. There's two made. There was one that was a hardtop like this one. Well, hardtop, but it's a T-top. And one that was convertible. And that's it, and that's all they made. So yeah, it's kind of special, kind of rare. And of course, started that iconic look of the front, the pointy front end, and our four tail lights like that, and that kind of a sweeping angle look like that, right? That these cars have throughout the 70s. For the top of it, I'm going to put it onto my little thing here. I'm just going to put this in here. Let's squeeze this enough to get it in, and put it in like that. And that should hold it, so even if I want to get under here, that should be fine. I'll be back in a sec. And there we have a nice, shiny but not for long, black Corvette. Because this paint is primer, it is going to dry and become looking like this, instead of really shiny like that. As you can already see, this is starting to dry here on the corner and it's starting to flatten. Strange, I think people bought a car like this not to drive it, and mileage often show it, right? Second car for a summer drive that never comes. Yes, that also, and single guys with no families, basically, because it's a two-seater. There's no room. The back here is basically your gas tank, and then of course under the hood you have your engine. So you got an engine and a gas tank, and two seats. Like that's literally the back of the car. There's behind your seat's going to go in here, and then you got your back. That is your cargo area. That's it. And that's the two in between the two wheel wells at the back. And that's it. And behind this was a gas tank. So imagine that inside the car. Okay. There was not a lot of room. The Corvette was a really impractical car. But it looked cool and it went fast, and yeah. So as you can see, as it's starting to dry, it's becoming a flat black, but that's okay, because this was just to see how my sanding did and to see what the body looks like. I've got a couple little dust spots. We're gonna have to take care of all that. By the time this is all done, I'm probably gonna have 3 or 4 coats of black paint on this thing before I get it to a point where I like it. I can see a little speck of dust here and here and here, and that's the thing that I hate. Black is a challenge for me. I think black is a challenge for everybody, really. But yeah, to get it to a point where I like it, it's going to be a tough part. But yeah, anyway, we're going to let this dry. Let's put it to the side. So that's it for a little body experiment today. We got some stuff to put on our engine, so we're going to get our valve covers. Valve covers are going to go on. They're going to go on like that, but because these things got chrome on them, I have to remove the chrome. I'm going to do that with a combination of knives and files. You have to remove the chrome because the glue will not stick through the chrome. The glue eats plastic. It doesn't eat the silver plating that they use for your chrome parts. So you have to remove it. Now that's another argument for, stripping all the chrome off your parts. You don't have to go through this process if you've stripped your chrome off. So just do it like that. There's one. Like I said, if you don't have a file, you can just use the edge of your knife and scrape away at it. And just do that. And scrape the chrome off. Okay, so it looks like our driver's side of the engine has the little square thing on it, where the passenger side has the... Now that I'm thinking about it, this has to be aluminum. I gotta paint this engine aluminum first. She needs to be aluminum colored, and I'm just gonna spray paint it. So I'm going to fire up my air compressor here. Get some aluminum paint. That's going to be the Tamiya XF16 flat aluminum. Let's get this shaken up. All right. Actually, I still have my needle out of my airbrush. I gotta make sure I put that back. That's an important thing. I'm gonna do something I don't normally do. I'm gonna airbrush right at my table here. Shove that in there. Hold that. Open this up. So you guys get to watch me airbrush my engine. I'm going to do it right at my table. I'm going to risk overspray everywhere on my desk just for the sake of you guys. That's right. That's right. I'm doing it for you guys. So what I'm going to do is take my paper towel, put it there, and I'll take this paper towel, put it there, and I can spray right here. Here we go. Now we've got a nice aluminum block. So, need to hold on to this like that for a little minute. Let's just put it with my other pieces that I have here. Just move this over here and we'll go doink. Engine is in its spot and he can dry. So, now I gotta clean up my airbrush, so I'm gonna spend a few minutes cleaning that up. So with the airbrush clean, I don't know if our engine is quite, our engine might be dry enough to play around with it. Let's put our valve covers on. So this guy goes on this side, just like so. I love the Tamiya paint, you know, it dries so fast. I was able to get rid of most of that that parting line on the oil pan. So remember the oil pan had that great big line through it. You can sort of kind of see it in the light, but it's pretty good. Okay, glue. We need to glue things on. That's always important, to glue your stuff on. Okay, so then we have our passenger side valve cover. I guess we technically have the same thing. They both have that little square on the top of them, but this one's got an oil cover on it, an oil cap, so you can put oil in the engine. That's an important thing. Push. There we go. Okay, valve covers are on. Bingo. What else do we have here? We got the oil filter and the fan belts, but I haven't painted those yet, so we're not ready for those. So I'm going to paint those later, and we're going to continue with the engine later on. Okay. Let's see what step 2 is. Yeah, I know. Apartments are very small in Japan, so they have smart designs. Yes, I would say that is true. Okay, step 2 is actually adding a fuel pump and our starter. I like that Revell has decided that you're going to name all the parts for you. That's something they don't do on all their kits, but they did on this one, so it's a nice change. I'm just going to look at step number 3. Step number 3 looks like a rear end assembly. So let's find those pieces here. I think it's going to be all on this sprue. So we've got our rear axle here. Okay, we've got our diff cover, or they call the differential top. And then we've got our rear spring assembly. Remember when I was looking at this in the last episode, I was like, what the heck, only got one leaf spring on this car? And it's because it goes from side to side. It doesn't go front to rear like a normal, quote unquote, normal suspension system. And I do realize that because this is all flat black, it's hard for you guys to see. And I apologize for that, but it just is the way it has to be. Okay, so the top goes on here like this. Does it go like that? We're supposed to line up two pegs with 2 holes. It's a weird design. You know, back in the late 60s when you had rear end designs like by Ford with their 9-inch rear ends, and those you know, for over 50 years they've been the standard, the gold standard for strength in rear ends. That design has always been known to be the strongest design for a rear end, for a differential. And I'm curious how strong Corvette rear ends were, because Corvettes always had the bigger engines, the more power. I mean, yeah, you could always get like a 69 Chevelle or a 1970 Chevelle with a 454 in it. Big block. But still, the Corvette was faster. So I'm just curious how strong, or what kind of reputation do Corvette rear ends have? I do find it quite humorous looking at just reading the specs out of the instructions here that the engine they've put in this model kit has the 427 engine with 3 2-barrel carburetors producing 435 horsepower. Now that's rated. Google would say that the power was more closer to the 500 horsepower range, but they rate them lower for insurance purposes. But the car still only ran like a 13-second and a quarter mile. Our leaf spring is supposed to go up top here with this peg here going in this hole. Something like this. And then these 2 pegs going into these 2 holes. It's all supposed to line up, but I think I got some flashing on my pegs. Car looks very narrow. I bet its steering sucked. Is there a reason why the cars are so wide? F1 cars? Why they're so wide? Well, for handling. To get all that downforce on the F1 cars, you need to have all that. Look at how much, like there's so much, I want to say over engineering on a Formula One car. There was a commercial, I think, back in the late 90s where they showed a Formula One car actually going up inside through a tunnel and actually went upside down and was able to drive upside down in a tunnel. Of course, it was just for a commercial, and so it was, you know, not real. But in theory, doing the math, the amount of downforce on a Formula One car at 100 miles an hour is higher than the force of gravity. And so in theory, a Formula One car could actually drive upside down because of the amount of downforce those things have. It was not a question. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, there is a reason why. I'm sorry, I read that wrong. I'm sorry, I read, is there a reason, not there is a reason. I apologize for that. Maybe I need to make another coffee so that I can read properly. Okay, so there's our leaf spring suspension put onto our rear end. It's a little bit hard to tell exactly what's going on because it's all black, but there's our rear end assembly. And so it looks like it's all going to go into our chassis. Where is my chassis? Right here. So that's going to drop in here with a couple of shocks. So let's see how this lines up here. Looks like we go in like this. Well, the rear end actually, our diff is got connected to the frame, but we got to put a couple of shocks back there. So number 61. Let's find our shocks. There we go. So much flashing everywhere on this kit, it's crazy. You know, I'll never forget, I had a next door neighbor years ago, and he restored, I think it was a 1978 Corvette in his garage, and at some point he was hooking up the fuel lines, and a bunch of gas dripped down like onto the engine and onto the floor, and he didn't realize it, and he went to start the thing up, and it kind of under the hood it just burst into flames, and of course it was inside his garage. And he wound up basically, it almost burnt the car to the ground. Like a lot of damage to the front end. The whole front end of the car was just cooked black and melted because it's all fiberglass. 40 to 60 were notorious for accidents, and they all look like sausage on wheels. Yeah, really. You know, that's a good analogy. They kind of look like sausage rolls. There's just a long steel tube kind of thing, right? Yeah. That was back in the extremely dangerous days of Formula One. Okay, so our shocks are supposed to go onto the frames there, and then up to these little sections. So they go in here. It's kind of okay, so there's a little hole in the shock to go here into that pin. Although it doesn't really fit, so I need to open up the hole in their shock here a little bit with a slightly bigger drill bit. going to preemptively do this one too. Okay. Goes into that little peg right there. Nice. And then they go into that section there. So this is going to be kind of a tricky little setup. The shock's going to go in like that right there. And then this side goes into that same spot, but there. It might be a good idea to put a little glue on them so that they kind of hold in their spot. Like that. Why all of a sudden you don't want to go in there? I know, because I put glue on it. You put glue on it and suddenly it doesn't want to go in its hole. Like Happy Gilmore said, are you too good for your home? Let's just make sure that is straight. The glue is going to start to try and hold it permanently. Really, I'm just wanting it to hold it for now. Well, I get everything lined up here. Because it's a little bit tricky. Come on. There we go, there's one side. And now this side you need to move. Come on, Mr. Shock, get on there. Doesn't want to go in his home. There you go. Okay, we're all lined up. Everybody's in their homes. We just need to glue that in now. Glue in all of our spots, all of our points. There we go. Give this one final little press to make sure it's all done. Hold that for a sec. This side doesn't want to stay. We're going to fix that. Will you do all the chrome parts? If you're looking at the picture, where are we here? This picture here. If you're looking at this picture, there, that guy. Yes, that's all going to be chrome. Everything will be chrome. I don't know why this side doesn't really want to stay. I'm going to put a clip on it. Put a clip on it. We'll see if we can convince it to stay. Let's try one of these. That ought to hold it. This side's staying. Why aren't you wanting to stay? I don't know why. We're just going to let that sit for a minute like that. Okay, we'll put this off to the side, let that dry. so that's step number 3. We're finished. Step number 3 is done. Okay. So step 4 is our front suspension, but we've got our coil springs. But our coil springs are currently being de-chromed, so I can't do the coil springs. I think this just might be where I have to leave it for now. Actually, I want to, before I leave it, well, now I know what that thing was that I didn't know before. Rectangular thing is our license plate bucket, which does not need to be chrome. Let's look at our interior. We've got things like seats that need to be assembled. So where's the step to assemble our seats? There we go, step 15. We've got interior door panels, but I need to do a little detail painting on that. Same with our dash, I need to do all the detail on the dashboard. But I can assemble my seats. Okay. We've got pieces of seats on different sprues. I thought I had another sprue that had seats. Oh yeah, here we are. Okay, so we've got the backs of the seats are here. The stripe, yeah. Not going to be adding the stripe to it. Because like I said, the whole purpose of this for me, this build, is I'm replicating the car that my dad owned back in 1969. My dad had one of these. And of course it was black, and that's why I'm painting it all black. I hate these big wide nubs that they do on these some parts. So the last thing on this is their fender, but I'm just going to take the fender off of here. This is like some inner fender well, I believe this is what this is. But that's it for this sprue. This sprue is now done. So I'll just put this back over here. Here's our other sprue, I believe, number 40. Are these two little rectangular things that I had no idea when I first looked at them. I was like, what the heck are these? But these are headrests. Why they have them as a separate piece, I don't know. That's kind of a mystery to me. Okay. So I get these assembled, and then I can do our final paint job on them, because, well, yeah, with a great big nub like that, you obviously got to touch that up, right? Nubs on the sides here. All these little imperfections, flashing, stuff like that. So this is going to go into the back like this, so we can glue that in. Just like so. Okay, so that's done. And then we got a headrest that's going to go on, not this, that's nub. Headrest. It's going to go over the top here, kind of like that, and just kind of go sit on there. Hopefully centered. Let's put some glue up top here for it to sit on. So I can get that lined up. Hey, I got it right lined up perfect. Okay. pictures of this car, I didn't see headrests. I could have been wrong. My memory definitely screws with me a lot. So there we go. We've got one of the seats there. That's it. So that's going to need a little touch-up paint on it. See, I'm pretty sure there's no model kit for a car my dad have had. Well, you never know. What kind of cars has he had? You might be surprised at the car kits that are out there. It just might not be one that's all that popular in, you know, like on YouTube and media and stuff like that. But there are lots of different kits out there. Cars. A Trabant? I never even heard of that brand. Of course, I am in Canada, so I don't know a lot of the European brands or Asian brands. So, forgive me for that. But I haven't even heard of that. A Trabant. Is it Trabant or Trabant? I don't know. Maybe it's Trabant. I don't know. Is it a French car, maybe? Looks like I got red pinstriping on there now. This is where their two seams came together when they made the mold and made a really harsh lip. And they've done the same on this one, right? So that's all. Clean that up, and then you get this nice little red pinstriping all the way around your seat. Okay, we'll get these put together, and then I'm gonna have to call it a day. I gotta get going. I got groceries that need to be get to be got. Yes. Okay, put the back in there. Glue there. Glue there. Put that together and hold it. And glue up top here. And I'm going to put glue up at the very top. Lots of glue. There we go. And our headrest. Just like that. Headrest is in place. Now this particular seat, the back doesn't really want to match the contour of the seat, so I'm going to hold it with a clamp. Just keep that together until the glue dries. All right. Okay, so this should be done. I can take that clamp off now. Yep, holding nicely both sides. Our rear end is assembled and in there now. They very made in west part of Germany before breaking the Soviet wall. Oh, okay. That could be why I never heard of that car. Okay, well guys, that's where I have to leave it for today. I've got to let my seats dry, and then I got to do another coat of paint on them. My body's dry. She's all flat black now, but I need to, get rid of a little bit of dust goobers on there and stuff like that. And I've got to make sure. We're going to have 2 or 3 coats of paint on this before it's all done. Yeah. And then, of course, a nice gloss clear to make it nice and shiny. Blah, 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 blah. Yes. So, again, that's where I'm going to leave it for today, guys. When I come back, we will see my de-chromed parts. You can already see that little hint of red in there. Because, well, it has done its job and has stripped the chrome. Grab my tweezers, you can have a look here and just lift this out. These were chrome and now they are red, and it's been about an hour. And so what I'm gonna do, I'll do this off camera, I'm not gonna do it now. Take it over to the sink, pull them out, rinse them off with some very warm water, and you need to clutter your room a little more. I still see places where you can walk on. Yes, yeah, ha 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 ha. I'm gonna clean those up. We'll come back. I'll clean them up, and then of course I'll spray paint them with black primer, just like I did with everything else, so that they won't be red anymore. And we'll continue from there. So thank you for the chat. Thank you for the burn. I want to thank you for watching. Thanks for joining me on this. And this is where we're going to leave it for today. So I guess we'll have to see you all in the next one.